I'm recording this session, so this meeting is being recorded. Okay, let me start. Kind of telling as I work for Amazon. So all the opinion is expressed by me is solely mine, and it has nothing to do with my employer, that is Amazon. As I'm giving this Amazon training, it's kind of important for me to tell you, okay, this is like everything is told here is solely mine, has nothing, or it's not even endorsed by my employer. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is I have built this agenda, and based on the response which I have received, most of the people here are a beginner. Okay, and almost like 60% to 70% people are looking to do some kind of transition in their career and want to come to the cloud. And myself did a transition. I used to be a SQL DBA 3 to 4 years back, and started slowly and gradually started learning big data. And then I realized, okay, open source big data is not as popular as I thought, and cloud is the next big thing. So I started learning cloud, and maybe I able to share my experience over the period of time of how I did able to make a transition from DBA. And if someone is DBA right now and he's looking to make a transition, I'd love to help him there. Okay. Uh, so what we're going to do is we'll try to have this kind of entire end-to-end session, maybe around 10 to 12 hours, totally depend, which include kind of a theory session, as well as demo, and as well as a hands-on lab. Okay. What I personally feel like, just going through the slides will not be helpful, and it make people bored. So, and so that's the reason I will try to include as much as hands-on, or maybe if I'm not doing the hands-on, and if we do not have a hands-on time, so I will show you show you the functionality which I talked about performing a demo. So this way, okay, what I'm talking and how you can actually do it on your time as well. So this is the agenda look like. Today, we are going to talk about Cloud 101, just to build the foundation even before going into AWS terms. And then we'll talk about starting with AWS and how AWS started, what's the story behind it, creating the AWS account, etc. So idea is to have a 1 hour session today. And next week onwards, I will try to be as punctual as I can. But sometimes, right, you get some kind of work, and I have a small kid, 4-month kid, and sometimes he just I have to manage him during the evening time as well. So the idea is I will try to keep the session 2 day a week, around 6 to 7, the same time we are doing right now. And the IAM and storage, which is kind of very critical to understand, especially the IAM part. So next week we'll work on IAM and storage services. Thereafter we'll talk about networking and content delivery, how networking and everything works. So you have not to go deep on networking and content delivery. You have to understand the basic terms. So we'll try to address those parts. And thereafter, okay, if someone is looking to migrate to AWS, what all services is available for them to migrate from on-premises to AWS. Thereafter, we talked about compute and database and analytics. So if you see here, right, I have put a lot of time around database analytics. The reason being, I feel like, first of all, I'm a analytics, specialist analytics service solution architect. So that's my area of strength. But I feel like, this is the place where we have a maximum job available around database and analytics. And this is the place where you can start slowly and build your knowledge and able to get a job easily as compared to when you're planning to learn around networking or maybe compute or any other services. So that was the thought behind it. And in this entire session, I will try to keep content around 100 to 200 level. But I know, right, 100 to 200 level is not going to land you in a job. So you definitely need to know around 300 to couple of services. So what we'll do is when we work on analytics or database, we'll try to learn couple of services where we are using SQL and maybe Python, right? So we'll try to go little deep there and try to build some around 200, 300 level of knowledge. Uh, and I know, there are a lot of people who do not have any background, what I'm talking here. So do not feel like, okay, uh, you know, do not get intimidated now. And when someone asks like, okay, do we need to have a programming background for this course? So the answer is no. So we do not need any programming background, because what we're going to do is we are covering 100 level. So those who do not know what is 100 level in technical terms is like, okay, basics, where we just talked about basic. 200 is kind of intermediate level. 300 is having little expert knowledge. 400 is like, okay, you are super expert in the technology. So we'll try to go around 100 to 100. And in analytics, I will try to go around 200 plus in some of the services. So you're able to learn those services in a right way. So you're able to put into your resume. And when you're doing the interview, you can talk about those services at length. Okay. Uh, yep. Any questions on agenda? How you guys feel like about agenda? You want me to include anything, exclude anything, or you think it's perfect to start with?
Seems up to me for the beginning of course. So yeah, all good.
Perfect. So first week, this is our first week, right? So first week, we are going to cover this two things. Second week, we are covering next two. So idea is to have this session completed by end of 6 week. So this way, in like 1.5 month, we'll able to complete this. And if I see like, okay, people are more interested to go deep around analytics services, then we can have another session where we can, I talk about all those analytics services in deep. But for now, for a broader audience, we just keeping it around 100 to 100 level. Okay, so let's start. Okay, introduction to cloud. So when we talk about cloud, the first thing coming to mind is cloud computing, right? So what do you guys think of cloud computing? Any volunteer who want to like to describe what is cloud computing? Okay, so in a layman language, right? If I have to explain someone what is cloud computing, and this is the question usually being asked if you are applying for a new cloud, either cloud support engineer or any cloud job, they wanted to understand what is cloud computing. So it is like, first of all, it's on demand IT delivery of IT services, nothing else, and which kind of over the internet, and it is pay as you go model, right? So let me explain you by giving an example of electricity company, right? So just think of what we do with the electricity company. We just go and have a connection from them, and we start consuming all the electricity, right? And then we use electricity for all our purposes, watching TV, running computers, running ACs, or all those house appliances, anything. And what we do is, whatever we use, we pay for it, right? And under the hood, for the electricity provider, they have to generate electricity. For generating the electricity, they have to build multiple grids. They have to build, electricity generation plants. But we as a consumer, we have not to bother about where they are building their plant, how they are transmitting all the electricity, how they doing all the wiring and anything. So we have not to worry about anything at all. We just have to worry about getting the electricity and paying for it. Okay, guys, so just try to mute yourself if you're not speaking. Okay. Okay, so for the electricity provider, right, we just go to their website and just have the connection and start using it. Same with the cloud computing. It is like there's a multiple provider. Amazon is one of them, and there are after Amazon we have Azure, which is from Microsoft. We have a Google Cloud Computing from the Google. We have a Alibaba. We have a IBM. So we have Oracle as well. So there's a lot of providers. What we do is like, okay, we sign up with them and start using all those IT services. And we'll talk about what all IT services is there. So if someone asks you a question, you can definitely, provide this example or any other service provider example. But if we talked about actual definition, which was given by NIST, which is uh, National Institute of Science and Technology, cloud computing is a model of enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access of shared pool configuration computing resources. Example, network, server, storage, application, and services that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So this is very mouthful definition. Means if you really want to shine yourself in front of interviewer, you can memorize this entire definition, which was provided by NIST, or else you can just keep in mind, okay, it is kind of pay as you go service model where you can consume all kind of IT resources over internet. That is the simplest one, which I have described earlier, like any electricity provider. And this is the kind of actual definitions which is defined by NIST. Okay. So if you see here, right, it talk about a couple of initial, couple of characteristics of cloud computing. First of all, is on demand, right? Uh, it's showing, and that it should be accessible. It should be convenient. It should be measurable. So, and you can able to provision and release. What does it mean? So we're going to learn everything in the next slide. So on demand self service is like, okay, whenever you like, just go and go and consume that service. As it's more like you have not to provisioning in advance. You have not to tell anyone in advance, okay, you know what, today I'm going to use this service. And so is it same like the electricity, right? When you're consuming it, it's on demand, right? Whenever you need it, you can just go and consume those services. And so it and broad network access, the other one is, so when you say like network access is like it accessible through multiple channels and it accessible through multiple locations. So is it not like, okay, you have to have a somewhere in this very specific place or very specific uh, setup in order to consume or use the services? You can just open an internet, any public internet, and go to the service provider website and start using it. So service provider is not providing you any specific need for them for you to access those services, right? The other one is resource pooling, and I think this is very important when we talk about cloud computing. Is under the whole, cloud providers run multiple data centers, and in order for you to provide all those resources which you need for your work, and you can think of, right, millions and millions customers using cloud uh, these days. So what they do is they keep a pool of resources for you to consume, and it's much more kind of a tenant model. Okay, you're consuming that services, and you're using, you're not knowing, okay, which actual hardware or actual machine you're using. It's just more kind of hypervision on top of it, and they have divided, they have divided with some kind of protocols. And we'll talk about when we're doing the networking, how the services is being divided for you to consume. But for you is, okay, there's a pool of resources, you are going and using some of them, right? And it is should be elastic, rapid, elastic in nature and expansion. What does it mean? It means, right, okay, if there is a high demand all of a sudden, for instance, with the COVID-19, Zoom, right? There's a, all of a sudden there is a spike in their demand, and so yours it should be capable enough where it can expand exponentially, and if there's a demand, and if there's no demand, it can it can shrink. So that's what it means. And at the end, it should be measurable. So means how your service provider is able to charge if it's not even measurable, right? So all the service should be some kind of a measurable unit through which you are able to pay for the service. So what I will do is I will take a pause here, and I will invite any question you guys have it. Okay, no questions. That's good. So let's go next. What are service models which we have in cloud? So one is software as a service. Primarily, there are three. Okay, and one is software as a service. Other one is platform as a service. Third one is infrastructure as a service. And means once you are in market, you will see like there are many more. People talk about database as a service. I don't know, means there's a tons of services out there, right? And anything is a service nowadays. So uh, everything is as selling as a service. So, but if we talked about primarily, these are the three defined by NIST, which is the governing body, which is kind of a government body which define the definition. So what I will do is, let's go deep on this service model, what this service model means. And before that, let me quickly bring another slide for you. Okay, give me a second. Fair enough. So you're able to see my the screen, right, where we are having this Word doc.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So, I talked about various service model in cloud. One is software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. So let's understand the background from where it's been defined. Okay, so all the service model has been defined how we used to have our data center, what all stack we used to have in data center, and what is the need. Just 1 second, I think it's gone. So what all stack we used to have in a data center, and how this service model has been defined. So if you look here, right? So someone asked me to zoom a little bit. Is it better now? Okay. So on when we used to have an on-premises data center, right? So in on-premises data center, when we talk about any data center, right? It's come with a facility where your data center is hosted, the physical building, and thereafter we used to have a network, from in order for you to consume the services, and then we used to have a storage, used to have a compute means servers. Then we used to have hypervision, like that it was built by VMware and all those uh, companies, which you can kind of segregate your compute into multiple virtual machines. And then we used to have a kind of operating system installed on all those virtual machines. And then we used to have applications and on top of that operating system, and eventually used to have a data as well, right? So this is the deck used to look like when you have a data center in on the legacy system. And before cloud, or even today, like a lot of organizations who manage their own data center, they have to manage everything, from facility, from network, from storage, from compute, hypervision, everything, right? And if you think of managing the data center is not an easy job. It's like, okay, it's required a lot of employee, a lot of capital, everything for you to manage the entire data center, and that was an expensive affair. And not all the company, just think of, okay, when Airbnb started and they have to build their own data center, what could be the situation? They won't be able to have, it requires a lot of capital for you to build a data center. Uh, so, only the big company used to be able to manage it. So here you do not have it. Then what happened? Okay, there were multiple data center companies. And what they used to do is, like, they used to provide you facility where you can just host your server, and they used to provide kind of cooling to you. They used to provide the power. They used to provide the security, everything which is required in facility. And what you can do is, like, you can just bring your server and put it there, and then have networking configured locally and externally. So you're having this VPC kind of, VPN enabled between that facility and your in your company, and you are managing it. So my previous to previous company, used to be in the same business where we used to have a data center, we used to host it. So it was not fun, right? I mean, it still required a lot of effort for a company just to manage all of the layers of this stack. So this is where that all the service model being derived. So if you see here, right, uh, this is where we're talking about shared responsibility model. And it is very important in cloud to learn what is shared responsibility model, because when you are in interview, people usually talk about what is shared responsibility model in a cloud. And knowing shared responsibility model is very important, because whenever I, you know, take an interview, I ask people, okay, what is shared responsibility model? And some of the time, people do not even heard of this term, what is shared responsibility model in a cloud. So here you see, right, there's a provider who's doing some kind of work, and then there is a customer who's responsible some kind of work. So it is like, okay, we are segregating that responsibility between provider and the customer. And this is where the define all those assets, IAS and PAS and SSAS is come into picture. How you're defining that shared responsibility model, and which layer you have defining the shared responsibility model, is defining what kind of model you're using. So if you're having if you're doing a segregation uh, of roles, right, responsibilities on the operating system, it means provider will manage everything below operating system, and customer will be responsible for managing everything which is on top of operating system. If you see here, right, there is a two thing I have highlighted this operating system. Something is managed by customer as well as managed by provider. The reason is below operating system, everything is managed by provider like AWS. We can definitely say here AWS as a provider, right? So provider here is AWS. So AWS is responsible for managing everything below operating system, and customer is responsible for managing everything above operating system. But in operating system, they have a shared responsibility as well. The reason being is AWS provide you operating system, so you have not to worry about provisioning, provisioning uh, network resources. You have not to worry about having the connectivity, having that networking, etc., etc. But what you're responsible about is, it will provide you operating system. But what you're responsible is patching that operating system. And if you have a database, so you're responsible for managing that backup of database, installing of database on that operating system. If you have an application, you are responsible for kind of installing that application, configuring that application. But you are not worried about all this underlying infrastructure which goes into into effect when you build your application on top of any operating system. So if you have to provision more operating system, you can just go and add more EC2 instances, which EC2 is like Elastic Cloud Compute. We'll talk about detail, so just uh, do not get confused if I'm using any abbreviation here. Okay, we'll explain it later. But does it make sense? Like, will you able to get it? Like what I'm trying to make a point here.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So if you are here, means if you are as a consumer using some kind of operating system and everything, so what you're doing is like you're using infrastructure as a service model. And if I go with the definition, uh, contained a basic building block of IT and typical provided network feature, compute, data storage, etc. Right, and everything is being else is managed by you. So I will not go with definition. The idea I have included definition here, so you can read the definition. But the whole idea is for you to explain this concept is very important, because I have seen many times people just know the definition, they do not know actual underlying concept behind it. Same goes with the platform as a service, right? Platform as a service is like, okay, I'm a service provider is providing you all the platform here. Even the operating system is provided by the service provider, which is kind of AWS. Okay, in this case, I should mention AWS here. So here they provide everything. What you need is you just building your application, and you're building your data on top of it. So it's just like you're only responsible for application and the data. So rest of them is managed by uh, by the service provider. In this our case, AWS. Uh, and again, everything's on a cloud is work on a shared responsibility model. So which keep in mind, uh, when you see, okay, if the cloud is secure, yes, cloud is super secure. But as an user, you have to have a responsibility, your responsibility as well, for you to have your application and data secure, right? And if you're, let's say, if you're if you have your application hosted and if you have your database hosted, and you're exposing your password to outer world, that cloud won't able to help you in terms of security. It's a response. It's kind of shared responsibility between customer as well as provider to ensure there's a security around the cloud. And it's very important for you to know, okay, how cloud security work. And when we talk about networking and security, we can go deep on that front. But keep in mind, more often I hear, okay, uh, and why they feel like, okay, cloud is not secure, or maybe they do not have a confidence. The reason being they do not know how the shared responsibility model works. Okay. The other one is software as a service. I think this model is nothing new, and we are using this one from ages. Can any of you able to give me an example of software as a service? We use day and night.
This app, for example.
Google email service.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah. Perfect. You guys are on the spot. So right. All the Facebook may or may not be uh, as a service. Yes, we can say that. But Gmail is one of the example, and you can say then Salesforce is one of the example, right? Uh, so this is where you have not to worry about anything under the hood. What's going on? How the service is being managed? How the application is managed? How the data is being managed? Where data is being get stored? How they are taking care of security, etc., etc. Right? And what you need to do is just you have to subscribe for a service and start using it. Simple as Gmail, right? You're going and creating a new account and start using it. You have not even worry about how Amazon, which which data center they have hosted their Gmail server, and how it's being routed to you, where your credential is being stored, and which database they are using for you to store all those credentials, how you're retrieving your credentials, whether you're using LDAP or you're using anything else. Means this is like there isn't you have not to worry about anything. It's just like you are worried about paying for that service which you're using it. And means in a Gmail you are not paying anything, but you are paying in terms of your data for you for them to crawl and provide you advertisement there. But again, even software as a service, share responsibility model come into picture. And can anyone tell me like where the share responsibility model come into picture when we talked about software as a service?
Account management might be.
You're right. So when you log in into any means when you consume or subscribe to any service, you are responsible for ensuring your user ID and password. You are ensuring okay you are keeping right strong password and everything. So yep, you're right, Rakesh. Securing the password is a kind of shared responsibility model. So guys, that makes sense, right? Is you guys able to understand like how and where this service model is being derived? So I will taking a pause. I'm taking a pause here. If you guys have any questions. No question, right? Fair enough.
No questions.
Okay. So let's go back to slides. Let me quickly share that. We share the screen where I'm having. Okay. And don't worry, I will share that all the document with you guys later. What all deck I'm presenting here. So if we talked about kind of a service model, let's talk about deployment models. So we have 4 deployment models. Means usually community. If we talked about public clouds, we do means if we talk about cloud community do not come into picture. Means I have not seen any community deployment yet or not worked yet. So if any of you know, that would be nice. But all this definition which I took is from NIST. They were showing like 4. So one is your public. We all know public is your AWS, Azure, GCP, Google, Oracle, IBM, etc., Alibaba. All these are public. And there is another one is private. So let's say there is a company decided to have their own data center which they can build, and all their user is accessing that as a cloud, right? Means they can provision everything and they can do it. And the other one is your hybrid. Hybrid is a combination of your public and private. It means like okay, you're using some portion of a public cloud and then half portion of your data center services, right? Means private as a data center means when we talk about private, we are talking about data center. So let's say you are a very big organization, you are not entirely into cloud. So what you're doing is you're running in a hybrid model where some of your services, application, everything is hosted in your data center, and half of them is, or maybe some of them are hosted in a public cloud. And there was one is community, which is much more like okay, if there's a government organization who's running their own cloud services, which is being used by community, right? So I have not seen this one. Private and hybrid hybrid is kind of taking a lot of pace here. A lot of companies are using their own data center as well as public cloud, and a lot of organization is slowly and gradually moving from private to public. But there are still a lot of organizations, especially the enterprises one. They run their private cloud. So we talked about a lot on the cloud in last 20 or last 30 35 minutes. So the question comes into mind is, why cloud is important and why customer is moving towards cloud. And I think this one is the first one is increased agility is super critical. And what does it mean? Means it will provide you access of all the resources, right? And all those awesome technology which is available in this world and used by big organizations, on your fingertips. Is it like, okay, if you're a new startup, right? Just think of, when I think on this front, is like it blew my mind. If if you're in startup and you have subscribed to Amazon, and you have access to all the services is being used by all those big clients of the Amazon, right? Even Amazon itself. So just think of, what kind of access you have, uh, what kind of access. How can this video thing come here? So what kind of access you have? This provide you agility, right? You can start your business any point of time. So you have not to worry about having a lot of investment in very first place. Even you can start your business free, because all these cloud providers provide you some kind of a credit for you to start using their services. And you can, if as you grow, you can start consuming more. So the second point is you have not to worry about capacity in very first place itself. Just think of how we used to have in legacy system. In a legacy system, you have to think of, what will happen if my business grow from 500 user to 50,000 user. How much memory I need, how much machines I needed, what should be the configuration of that machine, how much CPU I need, how much memory I need, what should be the database size, and how I can expand my database. This is a lot of things. So like how I can scale my application. And I think the application scaling was one of the biggest, uh, toughest problem we used to have in legacy world. Okay, you have an application, uh, and which is built for 500 people, right? Now all of a sudden there is a spike of 1,000 people and your application is down. You're getting error 404. So, and I believe, like, a lot of government organization this time, when they are releasing this stimulus package, they're and they are built on legacy systems. So all of a sudden there is a spike. A lot of people are filing for stimulus package, and their website is getting down because they were not thought of having that spike in very first place, and it was built on a legacy architecture. So this is where the cloud come into picture. Okay, all of a sudden, there's a spike in the workload. Cloud able to manage it, provide you agility. You have not to worry about having the capacity in very first place. Think of Zoom, right? They are a cloud business. They run on AWS, but when they never thought of, means they, how can anyone prepare for pandemic like COVID-19, which we are having right now? But all of a sudden, when there is a need arise, right, they able to expand, like now millions people are using their. The other one is it will let you to move from the capital expenses to variable expense. What does it mean? It means when you in a legacy world, right? You when you have to build anything, you have to put capital first, like buying the server, buying the licenses, buying the databases licenses, anything. So for everything, you have to pay in advance for you to consume those services. Here with the cloud, you're not paying anything in advance. What you're doing is like you're only paying what you're using it. So that's, I think, one of those very very important characteristic why customer is moving to cloud. And thereafter, breadth of services, right? Just think of Amazon, like they provide like 170 plus services, and uh, it's a huge number. As a company, means if you think any big organization, they won't able to build all kind of services in their self, right? And so this kind of a big deal. You able to have like a lot of choices, for you to work on. So if you have a new requirement, you just go and subscribe to that particular service and start using it. If you want to explore something, if you want to test something, you have an option. And the third part is like go global in minute. So let's say if you want to launch your web service in somewhere in Europe, you have an option there. You can just launch into that particular region your application. If you want to launch into somewhere in uh, Asia, you're able to do that. Somewhere in Australia, you're able to do that. Africa, you're able to do that. So it will provide you a lot of lot of flexibility for you to launch your business in globally. So what I will do is like I will take a pause and I will let you guys ask a question if you guys have any question. Okay, fair enough. So let's go and start with AWS. Uh, so as you know, right? I think AWS was launched around 2008, if I'm not mistaken, or 2006, somewhere in that period. Okay. Uh, so what's the idea behind AWS is very fascinating to know. Is in back old days in Amazon, when they were growing, uh, every time when they have to onboard a new customer, right, or means when they have to launch any new product or anything, is it like okay, they have to build everything from scratch? Is it like okay, from the network provisioning, from the storage, from the database, from the application, everything, right? And they realize okay, every time we are doing same stuff again and again, which making that kind of curation or kind of which making that launch time is significantly longer. It was not efficient process because every time when you're building a new project, what you're doing, you're repeating the same step again and again. And even though you're adding the resources, you can have as much as resources. That's what Amazon did. Like they thought, okay, it's a resource problem, resource in terms of employee resource, human resource, and they used to add developers, but they realized, okay, it's not bringing the time down because every time the developer has to sit and wait for them to have that infrastructure running for them to work, right? And you can easily relate if you are working with any enterprise. So if you have to launch any project, you have to deal with like 10 people. You have to deal with networking people, you have to deal with storage people, you have to deal with the database people, and you have to deal with everyone. And every time it takes a lot of time just to simple provisioning a server for you to just start your work. So that's why they thought, okay, why can't we just make this as a service, and anyone can subscribe to that particular service and start it internally. So they have built kind of a model where they already have resources up and running. You can just go and start using it. So you have not to worry about every time having creating a new database or installing a new database or installing a new operating system. It's just like okay, you're using a piece of it. So that's how this cloud concept come into picture. Then they write in white paper, and it was being approved, and then they started with simple Q services, SQS. I believe that was the first service launched by Amazon, and then S3. I think S3 is one of the popular service in Amazon, and I think it's one of the popular service till date. So, and when we talked about Amazon, right? So we talked about Amazon infrastructure, and which is this is very important when you started slowly and started working on AWS, knowing what is your reason, which reason you're working on, and what is your availability zone, means availability zone and local zone point of preference. This is means as a developer, if you're working, it won't be very important for you guys, but still knowing all this concept is very important, especially which reason you're working on. So reason is nothing but it's a geographical location, uh, which kind of which tell you, okay, which where that availability zone, and availability zone is nothing but collection of data centers. So where the service is available or where the data center of Amazon is available. So Amazon has a multiple reason. In US they have east and west, and they have a, in Asia they have a Singapore region. They have in Mumbai, in we have recently launched a new region in, I believe, in Africa, right, in Johannesburg. So that means there was a recently launched region, and then there's one in Sydney as well. So there are multiple regions, and region is just a geographical location, and within regions we have an availability zone. Availability zones is nothing but it's a collection of data centers, right? So within one availability zone, you can have a multiple data centers, and typically it's more than two data centers most of the time. And then you have a local zone, and it's a kind something new which was launched during this reinvent. And the and good news is like one local zone is there and started with Lex. So we have one local zone here. So why we need a local zone is because to have a less latency. And then point of preference is more kind of a CDN, is content delivery network. So let's say you are a global company, you are launched and you have a YouTube, or maybe you have a video streaming, right? And and you are streaming that video, but what you're doing is like you're putting all those videos into your local uh, kind of content delivery network, means your local uh, availability zones, or CDNs, and letting people to buffer from there. So this way, the buffering time is not going to be huge, and it is very important for you to when you're having when you're running a gaming company, because in a gaming the latency requirement is very less. And so, guys, does it make sense? Are you getting anything out of it?
Could you repeat what the difference between local zone and point of presence is again?
Okay, so local zone is a new things which come uh, into effect, which provide you to have a very less latency. It's much more specific to locations, right? So we have one local zone launched to launch in LAX. Is much more for a serving that customer which have very low latency requirement. And POP is like point of presence is more kind of a CDN thing, right? Where it's much more broad uh, in terms. Okay, it's not a physical location, it's much more of a virtual location, and where you are just putting the data there, and there's a dedicated line or network in between, so which let you to have very let you to stream or kind of consume the data in very uh, in a nice kind of in a nice way, where latency is very low.
Got it. So POP is more widespread and local zone is specific to a location.
Right. And a local zone is much more you can consider as a data center itself. When POP is like point of presence may or may not be a data center. It's some kind of a virtual concept as well, where we are having a very high bandwidth availability.
Got it. Thank you.
So and so what we'll do next is, in order to work on Amazon is we have to go to Amazon and creating start creating the account. So what we'll do is in this section is I can quickly walk you through how to create a AWS account, and I'm sure most of you already have it. If you not have it, you can just follow my instruction. You can create your AWS account, okay? And if you already have it, then it's really nice. What we can do is we can start using your AWS account from next session onward. So I just can you guys quickly tell me, like, okay, if you all have it AWS account, you want me to walk through, or if you are okay, means if you guys are okay to go and create the AWS account by your own. Yeah, we can create one. Okay. The reason being, like, there are many people, they are very new to AWS, right? So for them, it's like, okay, what you can do is you can go and create an account. So here, when you create on sign in an account, for me, is it like, okay, I already have it here. So okay, so if you go to this URL, right, it will tell you like, okay, you can create an account. Let me quickly check the chat. Okay, what people are saying. This way I know, okay, if they already have it or not. Okay. Okay, but okay, fair enough. So let me quickly walk you through, so you have not to kind of follow along. Okay, just let me walk you through like how you can create this new account. You have to go to this location. Let me quickly put into chat, and it will tell you. Means for me, I already have a new account, so that's the reason it's telling me to log back in. But for you guys, it will tell you something like create a new account in this right hand corner, right? So when you click on create a new account, it will ask you to have this. There is a page, and with Amazon, the best thing is like it will provide you 12 months of free tier access, and there are a lot of services which comes under free tier access. Okay, and here you have to provide your email address. For this session, I think I have created a new email address. Provide a password. And then account name is like you can have any account name. I'm just keeping this one as an account name here. Okay. You can go continue, and it will let you to have your account. So this is where you have to provide you have to select the personal, because you're using for your personal. So you have to provide your phone number, and then it will ask you that and here just click on, let me get my name better way. It will let you create an account. Okay, and this is where you have to provide your credit card information. So this step is important. Okay, so just provide the credit card information. I don't remember my credit card. So anyway, so you have to provide your credit card information, and then you will be good to kind of create an account. And thereafter, I think you will be all set. So just keep in mind the account through which you are registering, right? That's your root account, and you have to. And root account is the most powerful account in your AWS. So you have to remember your root account username and password. So whenever you're creating it, just keep it. Just keep in somewhere safe. Uh, and we'll talk about like what you're gonna do with the root account, how you can create a multiple user, not to use a root account in the future. But the idea is have that account being created and have your user ID and password safe, right? Uh, so for today's session, I think we are done. We are almost we started around 6:10, so we reached around 7:06. So I will stop my recording here, and maybe I can take a pause and I will ask you if any of you have any questions. Just feel free to unmute yourself and ask any question if you have.
No questions as such, but it's been an informative session. Thanks, Tony.